We have an amazing guest today. We got Patrick Herb jumping on, Assistant AD for Strategic Communications for the Wisconsin Athletic Department, 16 years with the program. Let's talk hoops. Let's talk John Tonje. Let's talk about this March Madness run. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Really appreciate you jumping on. Today's episode, we have Patrick Herb jumping on, Assistant AD for Strategic Communications. Been with the Badgers for 16 years, on location. Patrick, man, as always, humbled to have you here. Let's talk basketball. Let's talk hoops. I want to start with John Tonje, because I saw a stat today come out, third most points single season Wisconsin Badgers basketball history right now. Tonje, how do you put him in perspective, his legacy at Wisconsin?
I've had group chat discussions with some of my friends who are Badger fans about that. In 4 months, he has already elevated himself into the pantheon of greatest Badgers in the last 25, 30 years. Or if you want to extend it longer, you probably could, last 75 years. And is he on the top 5 now from impact in one season? And I think it's worth the discussion. I really do. I think from guys who have had an impact on winning in this program in one singular season, I put Devin Harris in that conversation. I put Orlando Tucker in that conversation. Certainly Frank Kaminsky, Johnny Davis, you'd have to put in that conversation, how he carried this team. And then maybe Tonje. That might be your top 5. I know Finley, there's a strong argument for that. He was dominant, but from a landscape, he never got first team all Big Ten, which is, I think, surprising to people that Finley never got that. But it's the era that he played in. There were some great players, and his teams weren't great either, right? They never finished top 4, never made deep runs in March, that kind of thing. But what Tonje is doing is he's putting himself in that conversation, and it's amazing. And there's things I like about him that are beyond basketball too. He's a humble guy from my standpoint in terms of like media relations and asking him to do things. He's sometimes reluctant because he's not an attention seeker. So I actually appreciate that about him. He's turned down some interviews that would have been maybe good for him or self-serving, and that's fine. But then he's also willing to do things. If I say, hey, this one's really important, you ought to do that. Like, all right, I got you. Like yesterday we did, I'm not saying this one's important necessarily, but we did the Field of 64 or Field of 68. They've got a live podcast going or video cast throughout the whole tournament. And he did one from the locker room yesterday, and it was still within our media window, so it wasn't a big inconvenience or anything like that. But he's just very comfortable being around this team now, and it's been a beautiful marriage. That's the only way to describe it. It's been great.
So we did a show when he committed this offseason. I said, man, this looks like a really good floor spacer, great shooter. The numbers back that up. But I certainly didn't realize the impact he would have. When did maybe inside the building people realize, man, this Tonje kid is really special?
I think if you go back a ways, our coaching staff here has a strong connection to that Colorado State coaching staff, Nico Medved, but also some of the assistant coaches there. And so part of the homework was talking to them a lot. And they obviously validated him and thought really highly of what he was as an athlete, but also as a person, and had the ability to shoot. I think he's probably shooting better than even people expected. But he had that ability to space the floor and also be a big time athlete. You saw the dunk he tried 3 minutes into the game yesterday. He was fouled, by the way, but even just the fact that he tries that, like, kind of shows you the explosiveness that he has, and at least thinks he has. The other wrinkle of this is, he was close to going to New Mexico. In fact, had kind of committed there and before exploring the other options. And it's not lost on me that Colorado State probably did not want him in their conference at New Mexico. And so coming to Wisconsin ended up being well. But in terms of fitting in, it was not even the summer. When the coaching staff realized that he was this potential. I don't even know if it was the summer, because if you remember, the whole narrative out of the summer was John Blackwell and how this guy is Johnny Davis level leadership potential on this team. Like, put him on your back and can get you 20, can get you 30 in a game. And he's shown that too. That prediction was not wrong. He was Wisconsin's leading scorer yesterday with 19, and I looked it up. Going into this year, his career high was 18. So of his freshman year, he had a career high of 18. He's already topped that 10 times this year. So that prediction wasn't wrong. They just didn't know that we'd have Batman and Robin on the same team. And it probably was in the first weeks of camp when that started to emerge, that close scrimmage and kind of some of those practices right before the season where they said, okay, yeah, this guy's got downhill takeover ability. I heard somebody reference that. I think it was Izzo. He said he called him, what do you say? He's called him a linebacker playing football. Yeah. And that's great because when he does dedicate to getting downhill and be aggressive, he is such a bulldog at getting to his spot.
Well, Izzo loves Blackwell too, because Blackwell does some of the same thing. Those are Izzo type players, physical, get in the paint, just do the right things. Let me ask, first of all, can you imagine being on that New Mexico basketball coaching staff, watching Tonje do that this year, and knowing you basically kind of had him? You'd just be like, come on, man. He's so frustrating.
College basketball these days, though, it's Wisconsin thought they had a couple guys, I think, in the offseason, then they end up going somewhere else too. Like it's the way it is right now.
I mean, you
talk
talk about
having Chucky Hepburn, and then he wasn't here. So,
what a year he had as well, by the way. You talk about the marriage here with Tonje and fitting in. That brings me to the next point I want to talk to you about. I think one of the hidden aspects of this team, and I've talked about it a couple times, is the culture on the team, driven by guys like Carter Gilmore, Kamari McGee. I think culture is more important than ever now with the transfer portal era, the way players can move. And the job Greg Gard did building the culture on this team, it feels special. Is that something Greg Gard doesn't get enough credit for? And is that something that's replicable?
I do think this year's team is an anomaly because of how many seniors they have and some of these guys that have come through the program for years and years and years. I don't know when the next time we're going to see that is, to be honest, here or in most places. Because if you forecast to next year and nobody wants to speed through what's going to happen the next few days, weeks, so, we hope it goes a while. But the returning players for next year is a pretty small list, and you won't have these 5-year guys, these culture guys that you're kind of referencing. So it's one of the reasons to really enjoy this team as we have it right now. But I also say this, it's not by accident. I've said this probably on this platform before, but you recruit your problems. That's been a saying around Wisconsin athletics for a while. And so the opposite is true, right? You recruit the guys who are going to be good fits. And so Xavier Amos, right? Like there's a guy that could be disappointed that he's only getting 15 minutes a game. Or even yesterday when he has a really great game, I think he played 12 minutes, maybe something like that. And no way. He's happy to be here, excited, good team player, enjoys his teammates, takes coaching. And that's not by accident, having those guys that fit. But having the leadership of Klesmit and McGee, Gilmore, Crowl, those guys who have been through this, I think on the defensive end is where you might see that most, where these guys have been in the system for so long. And that's been something that people have talked about, that for Tonje, for example, the offense came quickly. The defensive part took some time for him to understand all the principles and understand what it means to play defense for Wisconsin. Coincidentally, well, actually not coincidentally, we've seen this team's defensive metrics rise throughout the season. They're now top 25 nationally in defensive efficiency, and they were nowhere near that in December. And so the offense gets a ton of credit and headlines, and deservedly so, because it's potent, right? I think it's 11th or 12th nationally in efficiency, best Wisconsin has seen since that 2015 team, most points in 72, all of those things. But to have this team now be a top 25 defensive team is what gives me really a lot of optimism that they can win games when they're not making 15 threes. When they make 15 threes, they're blowing teams out. Like that's what will happen. If they hit 15 threes against BYU, they'll run them out of the gym. But if they only hit 7 or 8, 7 is what they hit yesterday in the Big Ten championship game. They didn't hit a ton, but yet they were right there on 4 days of 4 games against a really good team, and still is a 1-possession game with a minute to go. So Gard has talked about that a lot. He refers to it as getting their defensive bite back. And that's been a big key to, I think, these last couple weeks of the season. And it's a long-winded way of saying those seniors, those program guys, those culture guys are a big reason why I believe the defense is now catching up to the offense because those guys are helping those new guys get up to speed.
Oh, you're going to need it coming up against BYU. But yeah, I agree. And the defense has gotten better. And part of that defense that I think is one of the more underrated Badgers in recent history is Stephen Crowl. And that's just me. But people seem to never, I mean, I'm painting with a broad brush here, but people seem to never fully appreciate what Stephen brings to the game because they just want somebody who dunks sometimes. Am I crazy there? Or is he just one of the most underappreciated Badgers you've seen in recent history? Coming up next with Patrick Herb, but first a quick second for our friends of the show over at Nissan. Nissan is all about stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level with the ability to up to 8,500 pounds. It can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear and everything in between. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, that's the entire lineup plus 3 guys on the bench. The Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, even bigger minutes. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Today's episode also brought to you by our good friends over at 5 Hour Energy. And listen, sometimes daylight savings, sometimes it sneaks up on you a little bit. Sometimes you're a little tired. Sometimes you're feeling that lost hour of sleep. 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, more time for activities, but it also means sometimes you need a little bit of boost to get you through, whether you're staying up all night watching NCAA tournament highlights or matchups or previews. 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pickup wherever you need it. And it's easy to get, right? Convenient stores. It's easy to use. It's simple, easy to grab. It has you feeling refreshed. Head over to 5hourenergy.com, find 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. If you need one now, grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. All right, let's jump back into this conversation with the great Patrick Herb and keep talking Badgers hoops.
I agree with that. I think we're going to miss him more than we think next year. We, the collective we, the royal we. Because he's not necessarily the rim runner and he's not the rim protector shot blocker, but he is a lot of things. Social media is the worst, but it's part of my job too. So I saw somebody comment yesterday that Stephen Crowell's got to be better against BYU if we're going to win or whatever. He was 8 for 10 from the field, which set Wisconsin NCAA tournament single game record for field goal percentage. He's now shooting 42% on the year from threes, which is second on the team, and it's the best by a 7-footer in a long time. So his skill set, albeit different from some other teams that have these rim runners, these lob guys, has been really good for this system, really good for this team, and he's been steady. And I think that maybe some of the inconsistency of his career has led to gnashing of teeth from fan bases, maybe. But he's playing some of his best ball over the last 3 weeks. He really is. And he was very good against Montana, and he's going to have a size advantage against BYU also. And I hope that Wisconsin can exploit that. Where Wisconsin's going to have to be good is the defensive glass. That's an area that BYU is good at, offensive rebounds. They got a couple bigs that they're not 7-footers like Crowl, but they're strong and they're bouncy and they're athletic. And so they look a little different than our 7-footers. But yeah, I agree. Crowell's underappreciated. Granted, he's a 5th-year guy, so he's had a longer run than a lot of players. But over the last 40 years, there have been 4 Big Ten players to accumulate 1,400 points, 800 rebounds, and 300 assists. So again, he's had a longer time, but it's still, you got to produce. And he didn't do a lot as a freshman, if you want to sort of discount that. Those 4 players are Ethan Happ, Draymond Green, and Denzel Valentine from Michigan State. So that's pretty cool, company. We got sirens. Sorry.
Anything going on? No, your backdrop. For people watching on YouTube, just what's your backdrop here? Where are you at right now?
So I'm on the rooftop pool deck here at our team hotel downtown. Over my shoulder right here is Mile High Stadium, Empower Stadium, maybe it's called, where the Broncos play. And then right behind my head is Ball Arena, that white rooftop right there. That's where the games are here in Denver. So, and then the mountains are behind that. It's a pretty nice backdrop.
It looks phenomenal. I know you got a busy schedule, so we'll get you out here on a couple more questions. But going into this next matchup, BYU, you definitely talked about the cleaning the glass. BYU definitely has athleticism on the inside, shooting on the outside. What else are you looking for in this matchup coming up here for the Badgers? Keys to the game, maybe.
Yeah, this is a good matchup because I think it's going to be wildly entertaining for a TV audience. It really could be first to 80. And these teams are very similar in how they play with the system that they run and the roster composition. I know I talked a little bit about their bigs are built differently than Wisconsin's and maybe less of a shooting threat, but more of an offensive rebound threat. But in terms of tempo and shot selection, both these teams shoot about 48% of their shots come from threes. So it would not be out of the question if there's 70 3-pointers shot in this game. I mean, realistically, there could be 73s. So things I look at, as soon as the bracket came out, I loved it. I loved the pod that Wisconsin was in. I thought Montana was a team that Wisconsin could just overpower. They'd be better than them. So, and that's not always the case in the first round. Last year, we knew James Madison was going to give trouble. This year, I thought Montana going to be great for us. And then BYU, albeit good, and people are really, as the kids say, glazing them up these days. They are, I don't think they're a terrible matchup for Wisconsin because defensively, they're not going to present some of the problems that we have seen give Wisconsin fits this year. Really big men down low that Wisconsin has trouble corralling, right? Think about Michigan's guys or the UCLA guy that had such a big game or Maryland's. And the athletic, overly aggressive wings that extend and get into the guards and make it really hard to run offense, right? That's not how BYU is built. I'm not saying that they're not good defensively because they'll turn you over a little bit and they can be pesky, but it's just different. And so I thought that's a good matchup for Wisconsin and a good combination for the Badgers. The other thing I'll notice, if Wisconsin can get that defensive bite back, this BYU team does not like to play those type of games in the half court and low scoring. Their record is 4-8 this year when held under 80. And they're 20-1 when they get to 80. 80 points. That's not a low threshold. I know Wisconsin hasn't been maybe the pack line Dick Bennett defenses, but they're not giving up 80 a game. And so if they can keep this game, if they can keep BYU even in the 70s, then I really do think Wisconsin's got a good chance at this. They're going to have to hit some shots, but I think that's late March college basketball. It sounds simple, but teams often their seasons end when they don't shoot well, and that's not a Wisconsin thing. Yes, it has happened to Wisconsin, but it's not isolated to Wisconsin. It'll happen to most teams this tournament. They will lose when they don't shoot well. But Wisconsin, we've seen it. They have the versatility to put up 12 threes on you from 6 different players. And if they do that, like I said, I think they might run BYU out of the gym if they do that kind of thing.
Then we'll go right into the Sweet 16 and be phenomenal. And BYU not a great free throw shooting team either. So if you want to look for a close game down the stretch, I think the line is 1.5 to Wisconsin. Free throws often determine that at the end. And we know what Wisconsin does at the line, and BYU is not great there. Let's finish up here because I know you got a bunch of stuff to do, but let's shift gears really quickly. Spring football event coming up on the 19th next month. Talk to me a little bit about what that is and what's going on that day for Badger fans.
I'm glad you asked. So the spring showcase, it's being called. And first of all, we're in an era where a lot of schools are canceling spring games. They're pivoting and they're doing some sort of combine or just like a flag football skills contest. And Luke Fickell has the opposite thought on this. While he does not want it broadcast on TV necessarily, he does want live competition for his players to have that environment in front of fans and have a live kind of scrimmage, dress rehearsal, if you will. And he also wants to bring fans in and allow them to meet this team and see this team. There's a ton of new pieces. And let's face it, the last 2 years haven't gone the way this program wants. And we're going to need fans as much as ever moving forward. So I love that attitude. I'm really grateful as somebody who's a promoter of these teams to be able to have this opportunity. So April 19th, what the day will look like, we're going to do a kids combine, a Coles kids combine at the McLean Center that starts at 11 a.m. And kids can come through and run a bunch of skills tests and go through inflatables and play football. Athletes from other sports are going to be running the different stations. It'll be a lot of fun. And then at noon in Camp Randall, weather bearing, please cross your fingers it'll be like today here in Denver. We'll have a scrimmage. It'll be live football. It'll be offense versus defense, and it's going to be a great chance to see these new Badgers and some of these returning guys that are now in a new position. I've gone to a little bit of the first couple practices, and the offense obviously looks dramatically different, but people are going to like what they see. They're going to like some of the pre-snap motions and some of the versatility that they're doing with their skill pieces, the wide receivers, the tight ends, and these H-backs. Billy Edwards is big. He's a big guy, big frame, strong arm. I think fans are going to like him a lot. But going to be a fun day. Tickets are $5, but it's all going to be a donation to the Wisconsin Military Assistant Appreciation Fund, which helps supply ticketing and Badger support for military veterans, both in our community and widely. But it's free for season ticket holders. It's free for kids 12 and under. Free for UW-Madison students, and I think it's going to be a fun day and a chance for Badgers to get a chance to see this team. Hopefully, it's a beautiful day.
That's great stuff, man. I plan on being there with my kids. It's awesome giving back to the veterans as well. He is Patrick Herb. Thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes this morning. I know you're busy today. Let's get that win tomorrow on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk later.